After scoring just one in a pitiful series opener, the Mariners exploded for 10 runs to help pick up the pitching staff last night in a big win over the Twins. I'll tell you all about it and get you set for Game 3 coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. This is Siding Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. Big win for the Mariners last night, 10-6 over the Twins. This game was 4-2 Minnesota heading into the 7th inning. A lot of craziness late in this one. Big dumper, grand slam off of the bench. We'll get into that in a second. Wild 4-run ninth for the M's as well. We'll also talk about Tayler Saucedo's unfortunate injury. But Colby, to just get the ball rolling here on this episode, your general reaction to that game.
Organized chaos, I guess, is probably the best way to kind of describe it.
That works. Yeah.
A lot of things we expected to see. Yeah. A lot of things we expected to see, we did. A lot of the things that we haven't seen this year, we did. And it just kind of, everything felt like, we have no idea what's about to happen. And yet a lot of it felt like, I think we know exactly what's about to happen. So it was certainly a back and forth affair. There was a lot of fun moments. There were, a couple of not fun moments, including a really potentially devastating one there in the 8th. So, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of chaos, and that's typically where the Mariners cook is in the chaos. So it was, in a lot of ways, it was a very Mariner-y win. In other ways, it was nothing like a Mariners win. So it was everything and nothing all at the same time. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Blah, 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 blah.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. Let's talk about that grand slam from Cal Raleigh. He was not even supposed to play in this game. He was supposed to get the night off. Though they did show him, I think it was in the 5th or maybe the 4th. They showed him in the dugout. He had his batting gloves on. He had his bat there. He was ready. He was waiting to get into this game. And sure enough, he hits a grand slam coming off of the bench to get the Mariners back in the lead in this one. They were up 2-0 early on in this game. Then they went down 4-2 after the Twins rattled off a 4-run inning. And then Raleigh's grand slam gives them a 6-4 lead. That did not prove to be the game-winning hit in this one, but still a very big home run from Cal. His 5th from the right side of the plate. He had only 7 home runs from the right side in his entire career heading into the season. Now it's May 8th, and he already has 5 on the season. Looking at his swing from the right side, it's been more of a line drive oriented swing compared to his left-handed swing, but it does seem like there might be a little more uppercut action in the swing. We're not swing guys, of course. Like, I'm not trying to claim that I know how to break that down, but I have noticed a little bit of a change. Have you noticed anything in his swing or in his setup from the right side that has led to more power this year?
He looks a little more balanced than I remember him in the past, but again, I mean, we don't have a large sample size of Cal Raleigh, right-handed swings either, because for the past few years, he hasn't really played against left-handed pitching because Tom Murphy was so good at that. And that was kind of his role. So we've certainly seen it from Cal, but not a ton that I would notice anything super serious happening there with the swing. I don't know if the launch angle has been changed. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but he does appear to be more balanced. He doesn't. His swings and misses look better from the right side than they do from the left side, but he's still a much more dangerous hitter from the left side for now. So it's a little bit, it's hard for me to say until I see it for longer. And I got to go back and watch other right-handed Cal Raleigh at bats. But as I recall, when he came up, like, kind of the idea here is that from the left side, that's where you're going to get all your power. And then the right side, he's just kind of a better hitter overall. Like he's going to hit some more line drives and doubles and stuff like that. And the left side is where he's going to create backspin. If he can hit home runs from both sides of the plate at this rate, then he's going to be a pretty easy 30 home run guy with Gold Glove defense behind the dish. So it's a nice development for Cal. But ultimately, he still needs days off. And ultimately, I think you're still going to prefer to give him those days off when there is a lefty on the mound because of the damage that he's done in his career from the left side. So, it's not like you just, there's not a lot that you can do because Cal Raleigh has to get days off. He has to so it's, do you want him swinging the bat against a lefty or against a left-handed pitcher? Or do you want him swinging the bat against a right-handed pitcher? You still want him swinging the bat against the right-handed pitcher, particularly when your other option right now, Sebi Zavala or Blake Hunt or whatever, they're probably not going to give you a ton versus right-handed pitching. So you still probably want to give Cal a day off against lefties when you can, but obviously he's made some kind of improvement there this year, and so it's not an automatic anymore. But I think in theory you still want to give him most of his days off against a lefty.
For sure. So let's talk a little bit about the chaos in that ninth inning. Dylan Moore triple off of the wall to start things off, and then Josh Rojas drives him in, and then Rojas scores on a wild pitch. There were 2 wild pitches from Jorge Alcala, and then Rocco Baldelli just decided to let Alcala just eat it the entire inning, which was to the Mariners' benefit.
Yeah, it started off with just some of the worst outfield play I've ever seen. This is why you just get to a spot and then you work forward instead of trying to run with the baseball. Get to a spot, work forward. Martin clearly thought that he was already at the wall, and so he was slowing down to try and time his jump to rob a home run. And whoops, if he had just run straight back to the wall, he probably would have made the catch about head high. Fun note on that would have been a home run, according to StatCast, at T-Mobile Park. So Dylan Moore's little half swing way out in front, on his front foot, basically just
wasn't even a hard hit ball technically. 94 miles per hour off. Yeah.
And it would have been a home run at T-Mobile Park, apparently. So were they using the juiced baseballs last night? I mean, you tell me, but yeah, either way.
We had 3 upper deck home runs in this game.
Yeah. I mean, so however you want to, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I don't know. But yeah, that should have been an out. Or at the very most, it should have been a double because, he could have just played it off stopped, turned around, played it off the wall and gotten it in. So Martin's misplay sets up the whole inning very nicely. And then you get the walk. And then, I feel like we've seen this before, right? Like, oh, the Mariners have a chance to take the lead into the 9th inning. They got a guy on third with nobody out. Like, of course they're going to have at least a 1-run lead. And then you see strikeout, walk, double play. And you're just like, okay. So it felt like a trap, but Rojas is up and he's your best hitter and he gets it done. So yeah, the whole inning really starts with the misplay, which is, in a way, yet another Rocco Baldelli miscue in this game. He had several of them. So Martin, I don't know how much time he has in left field, but based on what he did there, I would say 0 innings in his life. But whatever. Either way, it starts off chaotic. It ends chaotic. Really good base running from Josh Rojas and just a really weird play from the Twins where like it's almost like neither Jeffers or Alcala could believe that Rojas was trying to score on that because Jeffers turned around and he kind of held the ball for a second before he flipped it. Alcala was late, but still you want to get that ball to him right away so that he can run right at Rojas instead of trying to,
it's like an MLB The Show where you hit the meter, right, to make the throw, but your guy just keeps on running for some reason. And then he finally throws the ball. It's like that.
So yeah, it was very weird. It was very chaotic, inning and it was, it was just about keeping the line moving, right? It was just a bunch of singles and walks and taking advantage, not chasing.
Nice sack fly from Mitch Haniger, who had a solid night last night. Obviously the home run to kick things off in this game. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come from Mitch.
4 hard hit balls.
But that was huge, right? Making it 8-6, getting that extra run, not just coming out of that with 1 run. And then obviously, things really started to fall apart for the Twins there in that inning. But getting that second run, after it was a Jorge Polanco strikeout, right?
Yep.
bases loaded, and it's like, oh, here we go. Here comes the double play. Here comes another strikeout, whatever, right?
Especially with the way Haniger's been swinging it.
Right. So Haniger being able to elevate that ball where there's no question about it, they were going to get a run out of that. That was huge.
Is perhaps the most underrated at bat of the entire night. Haniger's sac fly was aggressive early in the count, got a fastball, didn't try to do too much with it. It was just a very veteran approach to hitting, and just, a good sign that Haniger wasn't going to wait around and wait for the perfect pitch. He was going to be aggressive, and he was going to get that insurance run in, and he did. And Haniger had a really good night, despite just the 1 for 4 with the home run. And the home run was sweet, don't get me wrong, but that at bat in the ninth, that was my favorite at bat he had. And he kind of did exactly what I asked him to do. I don't know if that made the show yesterday, but I would, do you remember?
No, that was off air. That was off air.
Oh, okay.
We were just talking amongst ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember we were recording yet, but yeah, he had a really nice night and he hit the ball hard 4 times. So you hope that this is the turnaround for Haniger, because they need somebody to step up, and Haniger had a really good night last night.
Also, speaking of not doing too much, Julio had an at bat there in the ninth, and he didn't do too much. He didn't drive in a run, but he singled. He loaded the bases and
kept the line moving.
And I would like to see more of that from Julio. Obviously, you want Julio to do more damage in those situations, but I'll take a single over a strikeout.
At least have a good at bat.
Yeah.
Like, at the very least, have a good at bat. And even in that at bat, Julio went for the fences on the first pitch. He missed. And then he kind of,
which, like we talked about, if you do it on the first swing, fine.
Sure.
If you do it on the first pitch, fine. Right. But then you have to adjust. If you miss, you have to adjust after that.
Now
and he actually did.
Yeah, he did. He laid off some tough pitches, and then he got a slider that was right on the outside corner, and he kind of flipped it into left field. You'd like to see him hit that ball hard with authority to right field, but whatever. He got a strike. He swung at it. He put it in play. Good things happen. It was a measured at bat. He also walked twice. So, obviously you have to back up a good game with a good game and a good game before you start to feel like you're coming out of something. But Julio had a nice night at the plate last night, despite just, the 1 for 4 or whatever, I guess 1 for 3 with 2 walks. So
for sure. Want to give credit where credit is due.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about the unfortunate injury the Mariners suffered last night. Tayler Saucedo going down with a knee injury. Talk about that in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by DoorDash and eBay Motors. Want to make mom smile? Start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brand she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and a whole lot more. Shop with savings that would make her proud. With a Dash Pass membership, you'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees, including service fee and terms, apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. To the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. You can catch Game 3 between the Mariners and Twins tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. So we have some bad news to talk about, unfortunately, even after a big Mariners win, and that is Tayler Saucedo going down with a knee injury in the 8th inning last night, covering first base on a ground ball, and immediately after the game, Scott Service said Sauce is going to be out for a while. So first and foremost, hoping for the best here for Sauce, hoping it's not nearly as serious as it looked, and hoping for a speedy recovery no matter what it is that he suffered last night. But with that, the Mariners are going to have to make a move, whatever that is. You probably already know what it is by the time that you're watching this. We haven't gotten an update here. We were hoping that we would get an update by the point that we recorded this segment, but we haven't yet. So this conversation might be outdated by the time you're listening to it. But Colby, what do you think the Mariners are going to do to replace Saucedo?
Yeah, it's interesting. Scott said after the game that they were going to have to make a couple of moves after the game. So, maybe it's just a figure of speech, and technically putting Saucedo on the IL is one move and bringing somebody else up is the second move. So, like, it could just be a matter of, just poor wording or whatever, but there could be multiple moves made today. So it's something to keep an eye on. Now, Saucedo, they probably know. They probably have a really good idea that he's going to be on the 60-day IL. So you don't necessarily have to be looking at only guys who are on the 40-man because Sauce, you just put Sauce right on the 60 and boom. Now you can add anybody in your organization to the 40-man roster. So, as for guys who are on the 40-man, you have Colin Snyder, you have Sammy Peralta, who they claimed earlier this year. He is a lefty.
Yep.
So you do have some options down there in AAA. None are super inspiring. It's not going to be. He's not throwing enough strikes yet. Probably not Butchery. You guys remember he's in the organization. Yeah. He hasn't really produced yet. So they have some options here, but for like non-40-man guys, I think they like having the second lefty. I don't think they need a second lefty, but I think all things being equal, they would prefer the guy to replace Sauce to be left-handed. And they also kind of need somebody who can do a little bit of everything. Saucedo gave you length out of the bullpen. He would pitch in these, he was a left-handed specialist at times. He was a high leverage guy at times. So you kind of need a guy who can kind of fill all those roles. And to me, I look at that and that says Jonathan Diaz, who looked really good for Seattle in spring training. He's looked really good in Tacoma as a starter down there. He has some deception. He has a pretty good slider. He throws a lot of strikes. Like, he can give you multiple innings out of the bullpen. He's got major league experience. So I like Jonathan Diaz as kind of a sneaky ad here, although it seems pretty obvious. One other name that could be in play here, Bizzardo.
Yeah.
He is.
I was going to mention him, yeah.
Yeah, he is pitching in Tacoma right now. He's still on the 15-day IL, but you could just activate him, and it looks like he's ready to go. Like, he's been pitching fairly regularly. So I
think he's had 5 outings.
Yeah, like he's probably ready at this point. So yeah, it's Bizzardo. It's Bizzardo. It's probably Colin Snyder. DeGus is down there also. Like, they have a lot of options on their 40-man, but because of the seeming severity of Saucedo's injury, it probably doesn't have to be a 40-man move. We could also see another pitcher get added today as well, because if you're sending down Hancock, you might as well do that today and then roll with a 9-man bullpen for the next few days until you recall Brian Wu. So yeah, we'll see what they want to do with that one. They could also be looking to move on from Leo Rivas, but I think Saucedo's definitely going on the IL. If not today, it'll be tomorrow. It just kind of depends on when the guys they're calling up can get to Minnesota. I think they were in Vegas, and I think they played at like 11 a.m. yesterday. So they weren't mid-game when Sauce got hurt. So we'll see what they decide to do. But I would watch Diaz. That's kind of the one that I'm watching. I think he makes a lot of sense, and he fills pretty much the exact role that you're losing with Saucedo.
The other guy that I would keep an eye on here is Jordan Holloway. I know they really like him. He's really struggled with walks down in Tacoma, but I've heard on numerous occasions they really think they have something there, similar to how they thought they had something with Tyson Miller they kind of viewed those guys, both of those guys, in pretty similar lights. So maybe this is the time that they call up Holloway. But again, he's struggled quite a bit with the walks, but he has some major league experience pitching with the Marlins a couple years back. So maybe.
I mean, DeGus or Snyder probably make the most sense. If you just they're on the 40-man, they pitched at the big league level, they're going to throw strikes for the most part. Like those are probably the two guys that make the most sense. But yeah, they have options. They have a couple of options.
For sure. So again, by the time you're watching this, you probably already know what it is. And maybe we look like giant idiots, or maybe we look super smart and it is Jordan Holloway, or it's Jonathan Diaz. Who knows? Anyway, let's talk about game 3 of this series, George Kirby versus Chris Paddock, in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. Baseball season is in full swing, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBI, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. You can also get in on the basketball playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during the postseason. Speaking of hoops, I'm taking Jalen Brunson less than 37.5 points against the Pacers tonight. Download PrizePicks today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Once again, you can catch game 3 between the Mariners and the Twins tonight on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. All you have to do is search Mariners. And starting in this one for the M's is George Kirby, who has been dealing with a knee issue, according to Scott Service, over the last couple of starts, which is why, or at least part of the reason why, he was taken out after 88 pitches down in Houston. And we obviously know what happened after he was taken out. Don't need to relitigate that. But Colby, I assume you're going to be keeping an eye on that knee and just Kirby's health in general tonight, right?
Yeah. It's keep that in mind if there's any like decisions to pull Kirby after, his pitch count is reasonable still, like in his last start where I think he had 84 pitches through 6 and they pulled him. If Kirby is 100% healthy, they're going to put him back out there for the 7th. So keep that in mind tonight. If Kirby gets pulled after 75 pitches or whatever, there's probably a reason for that. And it's probably the knee is acting up on him or it's swelling up on him or something like that. So just something to keep in the back of your head. There are, circumstances that might make Kirby's leash shorter than it normally is. So you're looking for that. You want to see obviously command and control and all that stuff, velocity. It'd be great if he was coming out throwing 99 like he did in Arizona, but with just pitching on regular days rest, maybe he's throwing 95, 96. If he's spotting the fastball, then I think he's probably feeling pretty good. And then you just kind of see, you just have to take it kind of inning by inning and just kind of see how's the knee holding up. Is this a spot where you need to come out or are you managing it fine? So you kind of have to defer to the Mariners on this one. And to George Kirby himself, they know best.
So any thoughts on Chris Paddock, the former Padres prospect? I used to be pretty high on him back in the day. But he's definitely not lived up to the expectations that were set for him back in his San Diego days. But still a little bit of a talented pitcher. What do you think about him?
Yeah, he'll throw strikes. He is a pretty firm fastball changeup guy. Not a lot of breaking balls from him. And the fastball and the changeup have both been lit up this year overall. So, in theory, this is a good matchup for the Mariners. He's going to throw a lot of strikes. He doesn't have, he's not tremendous at spinning the ball. Does have good extension. So the fastball velo will play up, but it's going to be 92, 93 most nights. And the changeup, well, it's pretty good. Has gotten hit hard this year. So Paddock is a really nice matchup for this offense.
So before we get out of here, we got some good news on JP Crawford from Scott Service yesterday. And also on Dom Canzone, though it looks like Canzone's a little bit behind where Crawford is, but we actually might see JP back here pretty soon.
Yeah, perhaps. Scott wanted to be very clear in his quote, which I have right here. He said before Tuesday's game regarding JP taking batting practice in Arizona, it looked very good. I do not have a timeline, but he's progressing really well. Texas back and forth with both JP and Dom Canzone. Those guys are progressing really, really well. I would suspect we'll see Crawford soon. I don't have a date. I will not give you a date. But seeing JP take some swings in the cage today was comforting for me. So
Sure.
It was also kind of mentioned that like he'll obviously take batting practice with the team when they get back into Seattle, and if he's feeling okay, then he might begin his rehab stint. That the following week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, probably go out, and it probably is going to be not like 3 days in a row and then boom, you're back, because you got to see how he bounces back from playing shortstop, and you might want to ease him in and only play him 5 innings in game 1 and DH him the next day and just kind of see how the oblique is feeling with some wear and tear being put on it. So, I wouldn't say that like, oh, he'll definitely be back by the next road trip, which is, a week from today or tomorrow or whatever. I don't think you're there yet, but it does sound like if everything goes reasonably well, there's a good chance you get him back sometime in the next 2 weeks, which would be, a little bit ahead of where I think most of us assumed. I was thinking if you get him back before June 1, then you're doing really well. It sounds like you might get him back, by May 20th, May 25th, possibly maybe a week earlier than we thought, but we'll have to see how he reacts to playing, actual baseball and doing it every day and, kind of grinding through. Does the oblique hold up? And then he said Canzone's probably my read on it is that Canzone's probably a couple weeks behind JP, but you remember they're not the same injury. So that's fine. And I still think that around June 1 is a pretty good target date for Canzone. So we'll see. It looks like we got some pretty good news on both of those guys. And there's a non-zero chance that, JP joins the club on their East Coast swing here in the next, in about 10 days. So we'll see how it goes. But, after Sauce went down last night, it's nice to just have some good injury news. And we'll get a big update, I'm sure, on Friday when the team gets back.
Yeah, hopefully we hear some good news on Gregory Santos sooner rather than later. But yeah, with JP taking BP, and also, we had heard from Mike Blowers on the broadcast a couple days ago that, JP was out there taking grounders. He was throwing a little bit, feeling pretty good. So it does seem like JP's at least close to rounding third and heading for home.
Oh, good on Dylan Moore, by the way, for holding it down.
Yeah, Demo's been really, really solid in place of JP, and obviously he's had a really good road trip here.
Right. It'll be nice to get him back in a role where he can actually like thrive, where he's not being overexposed and all that. But he's on a bit of a heater right now, so it'll be nice to have him back out as an option in the outfield as well. That'll certainly help.
That will certainly help. And then when you get Canzone back, the Mariners are going to be in a pretty decent spot in terms of how they can, mix and match this lineup. So
a lot of options.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully.
All right. So that's going to do it for our show. But before we get out of here, a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.